Hey there, today's framework is all about getting clients. Yes, we're listening to your questions and trying to answer as best we can. And this, without a shadow of a doubt, is the most popular question I ever get asked. Whenever I speak at coaching conferences or run live events or Q&As, someone always asks this question. And many of you have asked me too, so here we go. And as always, I'm answering with a framework. And today there's a bonus framework too. 2 for the price of 1. Now, if any of you know Nick, my husband, he would love this. He goes out for bread and comes back with donuts just because it was a buy one, get one free offer. Never really understood that myself, but it makes him happy, so, whatever floats his boat. Okay, let's talk about what we're really here to talk about, which is getting clients. So I want to begin by sharing what I've learned is the fastest way to get clients. Now, it's a very simple equation that I want to share with you, and it goes like this. Exposure plus value times frequency equals clients, okay? So exposure plus value times frequency, meaning when you take exposure and value and you increase its frequency, you get more clients. Now, what this means for you is simply this. Keep this equation at the core of your client getting activities and you won't go wrong. No matter what happens, no matter what changes, no matter what strategies you deploy and implement, as long as you always remember this simple equation, you'll always be able to get clients. And it's really important you realize that. Increasing any variable within this equation will get you more clients and more sales, and will get them faster, okay? So if you increase exposure, more clients and faster. If you increase value, more clients and faster. If you increase frequency, more clients and faster. Okay, get it? Now, before I go into greater detail here, I want to introduce you to our bonus framework because first I want you to understand a core fundamental concept of business. Now, this is from Ed Meyer. He was an old direct response marketer from the 1960s, and he realized that the success of any product or service that sells well can be broken up into what he calls the 40-40-20 rule. He said 40% of what makes an offer sell is the offer itself. Now, many of us get all hung up and we think the reason this isn't selling is because my marketing isn't that great, or my sales video wasn't right, or my copy was off. No, 40% is the offer itself. How good is the thing that you're offering to someone? The second 40% of the rule is who you're offering it to. It's why we dive deep into your clients. We talk about your niche, who they are, what they want, their biggest problems, their before and afters, their pain points, your transformation. Because if we show our offer to a bunch of people who don't care and don't need help, it's not relevant. That thing is not going to sell. But when we take our same amazing offer, put it in front of a bunch of people who are dying to be helped by our solution, that thing will sell like crazy. Now, notice what we haven't talked about yet. We haven't talked about, say, copy. We haven't talked about messaging. We haven't talked about positioning or branding. We haven't talked about any of these things. And already we're at 80%. So 40 plus 40, 40% being the offer, 40% being basically the audience or the people who we're showing the offer to. 80% of what makes any offer sellable exists in just those 2 aspects. So as you're going through the next couple of weeks, you implement and you're thinking maybe things are not selling like I expect them to, then break it down to this simple concept and you will be successful. Now, Ed Meyer says the last 20% of what contributes to a sale is what he called the creative, which is a mix of messaging, the copy, the design, the website, the brand, etc. So you can see that the offer and audience match is at least 4 times more effective in delivering a sale than tweaking your website or, worrying about what your LinkedIn profile says or obsessing over the headline on your sales page. It's the alignment, the resonance that matters most. Now, this is important because the first element of our equation is exposure. So let's get back to our original framework. Now, why is exposure the first element? Well, it's because of the 40-40-20 rule. If that's true, and in my experience of doing this for more than 20 years it is, What matters more than marketing, more than pushy, sneaky sales tricks, is how often are you getting the right offer, that first 40%? How often are you getting that in front of the other 40%, which is the audience? So let's think that through for a second. What this equation tells us is that the more frequently we can get our good offer in front of the right relevant people, the more resonance we create and the more quickly we get clients, because that's what actually contributes to the sale. Putting something really, really good in front of someone who really, really needs it. It's not the fancy marketing tricks and tactics and all that silliness. It's a good offer in front of people who need it. So that's exposure. You increase that number, you get faster and more clients. Now we take exposure, and to make our marketing more effective, we add value to the exposure process. So we're getting our offer in front of people, and instead of just going to random strangers and saying, hey, I have this thing, look at it. Hey, I have this thing, work with me, which would work to a certain degree, which is why there are so many spammers out there. But if you do the math, if you put an offer in front of a bunch of people who need something, eventually someone's going to say yes. But that's not what we're doing. We want to create resonance for an easy flow. That's why we add value. Now, one of my favorite mentors once said to me, if you want people to believe that you can help them, help them. So what we're going to do is, through our exposure process, as we place our offer in front of people, the way that we're going to get that offer in front of them is we're going to help them. It's that value first approach you'll hear me talk about a lot. Because here's the thing, people love being helped. They hate being sold. So they're going to embrace you, which means we'll get more exposure because people aren't trying to push you away. And they're going to trust you. And they're going to trust you for good reason. They will believe that you can help them because you will have helped them. So this is why exposure plus value is so good. Think about it. As we intensify our value, the more we help them, the more clients we get and the faster we get them. Because we increase trust and relationship, more people accept our help. They basically accept our exposure into their lives. So you have this exposure and value combination, and now you multiply this whole thing by frequency. Now, what's the difference between exposure and frequency? Well, exposure is like how many people did you put this in front of, right? So exposure would be 100 people saw my offer today. Frequency is how many times those people saw it. So if exposure is 100 people saw my offer today, frequency would be 5 people saw my offer 15 times today. So when you take exposure and value, you've created a value-based approach, helping people and putting your offer in front of them so they can see what it is you have to offer. And then you do that for those people, and you do it more than once. So you expose your offer to them more than once, and you help them more than once. It's a bit like throwing gasoline on a fire. It's not linear in growth, it's exponential. And in terms of what it can do to bring more clients and what it can do to get those clients more quickly, if I help you, say twice in a day, you think of me differently than somebody who helped you, say, once 5 months ago, right? Those are two very different interactions. You as a human will develop two very different opinions. And if you remember that exposure and value are linked, they're not separate things. They are linked together, because otherwise it's just pushy sales. If you multiply it by frequency, then you realize not only have I helped you twice, but I've shown you what I have to offer twice. And so you are significantly more likely to purchase from me. Now, there's another thing. It's a really cool concept in biology called, let me get this right, filial imprinting. Basically, researchers have found that babies imprint on their parents from ducks to humans. The connection that the small baby has to the parent is actually created by frequency of impressions. It's the fact that the parent is always there. This is how the baby connects to the parent. It also tells us how powerful the mammalian brain is connected to frequency. Now, some business folks call it top-of-mind marketing. And I bet if you looked at the past 30 days of your own buying behavior, you would probably see top-of-mind marketing at work in things as simple as what it is you choose to eat for dinner. It's a mechanism of convenience that acts as a default in our brains, where we might think to ourselves, I'm really hungry, what can I eat? And we sort of go through the database in our mind, and the images and thoughts and ideas that you have in your mind are likely going to be the ones that are most convenient for your brain to pull from its storage. And the brand names, the food packaging, the taste even, that is most recent and most familiar. Or maybe it's the one that you've eaten most often, the habits, it's the one that will pull up in your mind. You don't typically, when you're thinking of what to eat, for example, you don't typically reach for the most obscure thing, you reach for the most convenient thing. And the same is true when people are trying to solve their problems. You see, most human beings, when they're looking for someone to help them solve their problems, they're looking for the most convenient way to solve that problem. And that includes the buying process. They incorporate that desire for convenience into the buying process. Who's the go-to person who can help me solve my problem? Frequency delivers that. Because the more often you're helping someone, and the more often you're exposing them to what it is that you have to offer, the more top of mind you're going to be. The faster the clients, and of course, the more clients you're going to get. Okay. So I hope that's given you some ideas to evaluate your current client getting strategies and upgrade them to align with these concepts. If you have any comments or questions, I'd love to hear them. You can comment below, or you can send a message to hello@coachesbusinessschool.com. And you can download a copy of the frameworks by just following the link in the comments. And I'll see you again soon. Until next time, lots of love.